Oh, you are hearing me now. Okay, cool. Thank you for that feedback. We are live on Facebook. I'm just going to put the intro on, and I'll pull Tim Wild up here. It's been a while since we talked to him. I'm excited to be talking to him. Pull him up here just after the intro so I can share and allow people time to come in. We got 23 people in the house so far. I'm gonna have more people coming. Got Tim Wild in here. I'm real excited to be talking to him. Let me just pull him up, find him. There's quite a few people in the Zoom room. There he is. Hang on, let's see. Yeah, there we go. Uh-oh. So you gotta review. Oh, well, let me unmute you.
And I've unmuted myself. It's like,
you're good. You're good. What's up, brother? How's it going?
Zoom proficient.
What's
Lovely
that?
to see you, brother.
Yeah.
I've become Zoom proficient since we last spoke. I've kind of worked my way around it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm a little bit more due to my wonderful PA Dave. He's helped me learn the intricacies of it all. How are you?
Man. I must not be manifesting too well because I can't seem to get anything going like that. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No,
Yeah.
it's a lot's been going on.
Yeah, yes, it's been a busy old year, isn't it, so far, considering that we're only halfway through February.
Like it's the longest 6 months of my life, and it's only February the 16th.
I know. When did we last talk? It must have been a similar time last year.
I would say probably, God, it's so hard to think back to things, but I'd say probably 9 months ago, give or take.
Getting on that way, isn't it?
It was. I think it was in the spring, and things were starting to ramp up, like what we're about to approach.
Yeah. Basically, the kind of the prelude for all of the fun and the games.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So we had reached out, but we sent it to the wrong email, the wrong message, and I had communicated with you. So I was like, oh, let me go check, and then I figured it out. And then I hit you up, and then we got on the road. We've been on the road since August the 8th. So we've gone through 20 states.
Wow.
Morgan's in Kansas. She'll be back in a couple of days visiting a dear friend of ours. So she's been in 21 states since August. But yeah, so I really enjoyed talking to you last time, and I feel kind of, but everything's perfect. But yeah, because I could really resonate with your work and your intel, and of course I know a lot of people, Morgan included, that have followed you for a long time. So I was like, man, I wonder what's happening over there with him, what's going on, because I've seen a lot of people, including myself, come off of old belief systems, including even over identification with divine essences or past lives or galactic lineage, and even in their self-development of kind of detaching from the story and traumas. And it's been an interesting 6 weeks this year.
It really has.
How's it gone for you?
been really intense, to be perfectly honest with you, Todd. I mean, like my entire process is a mixture of kind of obviously teaching what I'm finding out, but at the same time, as I'm sure you're experiencing, it's actually experiencing and developing whilst doing it. So it's kind of it's almost like it's like running and teaching and kind of like finding what's going on simultaneously.
Yeah.
But I think this year, I mean, like the first 6 weeks have just been explosive. They've they started off like kind of, the energy of this year is going to be nice, and then it all just went wham.
Yeah. There was like it was almost like about a 10, and I remember dates. People pull these dates out, you know.
Yeah.
Franco Di Nicola, Amanda Lawrence, Jason Estes, some of those people that, you know, kind of like forecast. They all had the similar information, you know, spoken differently, but it was like the first 10 days were, like you said, it was like, oh wow, you know, we've kind of arrived to a certain level. Maybe they're, you know, and then all of a sudden the shift hit the fan. And everybody had, especially the last 10 days or so in January, everybody had like all their stuff in their face. And the remarkable thing for me was, in the work I do, these people that have been like you, that have been out there for a long time, that have been confidently conveying this information. They were going through the same thing with as much or more intensity. And I was also noticing transformational changes, like everything from a modality they were married to, and they said, okay, I've got to go do something else. My higher self said, you got to do something else. You can't do that anymore. I had another friend that had like 800 in her community and was a accomplished healer. And she was told no more, you know? Yeah, she was just told, not like it's a message for everyone, but for her individually, because it was taking her to a new, let's say 5D frequency of healing, you know? So it's just been like, has that affected you at all? How have you been progressing?
What I've noticed about this year is it's I mean, I tend to kind of work in the increment that everything began at the cosmic moment, which was the 21st of December 2012. And from that point onwards, we thought those years were tough because they were preparation years. We had 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, and we're going through the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual kind of just basically dropping density, dropping all of the things that we don't need. And all of the time we're kind of like, oh my God, how much more can I take? It's pressure, pressure, pressure all of the time kind of thing. And last year was really interesting. When we spoke last year, I believe that the energy was just in the process of really, really shifting. And it was shifting from a place where we'd had kind of almost like the diluted version, the version that had been stepped down so that the human beings, whether spiritual or otherwise, could kind of stomach it and cope with it. And I think it was about kind of March, April and May that all of a sudden the energy just completely changed, like absolutely completely changed. And all of a sudden I described it in a few early Zooms last year that I felt like I was functioning in treacle. If I didn't get my energy completely on point the second I woke up, I felt like I had my head submerged in a vat of molasses and everything was difficult. And I was hearing a lot of people talk about like sudden like high levels of rising anxiety. It was almost like the tap had been turned on. And all of a sudden we are being completely surrounded by energy of a totally new frequency. And what it's done is it's kind of led into this year that we are now already experiencing, where the shift is really occurring. Like, you know, it's if you looked at it from like just a standard, I'm looking out the window, what's going on with the world, it looks like it's descending into total chaos. But if you kind of know what's going on, but with the energy, and you know why it's occurring, then you just kind of like you're grabbing on for the ride and helping as much as you possibly can, kind of thing. It's a boots on the ground year. I think we're all kind of getting these shifts, these changes of pathways, changes of conscious levels of development, because we're being required for a period of time to really stay grounded on planet Earth, because this is everything that we've been training for all of these years is happening this year, and it's going to be happening the next year. This is when it changes. This is when it shifts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
One side of it, my job's been very much kind of ascertaining what these new energies are, breaking them down, finding out how they work, how they're affecting us, how they're affecting the masses out there, the kind of, you know, what we describe in inverted commas as the unawakened masses, the ones who are like the focal point of the real raising of the frequency, and basically guiding people away from the field of fear that I'm seeing and feeling a lot now. It's almost like a collective experience. You can plug yourself into one dimension, which is filled with the love and the light and the positive focus and anything, but there's a widely available field of fear which is being very well fed, and it's steering people away from that and creating positively. That is being it's kind of where I am at the moment. It seems to be a push towards that.
Yeah, it seems to me, and just from the work I do in my own life experience with Morgan, that the energy is supporting alignment, I guess is the way I'd put it, you know, and I noticed it with like the Kobe Bryant transition, and I noticed it that many of the videos on YouTube were videos about what happened, but I watched 3 or 4 of them, and just from an energetic standpoint to kind of get a feel for it, because I love Kobe Bryant, and I enjoy basketball, and what I noticed was that the videos were about the people that made them.
Right.
They weren't about, you know, the you know what I mean. And so I looked at that, and I noticed how much less people were buying into it.
Yeah.
And good, like almost like false flags. You know, there was a period where false flags really sucked people in, and then over time they would happen, and it'd be like 2 days later, no one ever talked about it again. You know, so I could
in place basically.
Yeah. So you could see that happening, and then I think the people like you're talking about, it's almost like there was 2 roads that split in front of us, and we could choose at any time which one to be on.
Yeah.
And when we chose to go to alignment and you know, the love frequency and expansion and all that things would start to happen in these people's lives, including my own. You know, you make this decision, you walk this way in faith, and then all of a sudden these miracles start jumping into your grocery cart, you know?
Yeah. Quite literally. That is how it's working. And it's have you kind of noticed or felt how it's what we're going through is moving from more of an individual experience to a collective experience now?
Absolutely, man.
So it's like, you know, we're being pushed to act as a unity, as rather than just kind of locked in our own little individual worlds, worrying about our individual ascension process and the things that we're going through. It's now turning into a collective event, which was pre-planned in the first place. But it felt like quite a shock when that energy changed, went bang, right, okay, this is the direction everyone's going in. And
no doubt. There's no doubt there. You know, I look at like Vera, Ingeborg, and Augustine Sala. They're coming to the States today. Look at what we're doing. We had some friends came to see us, and it's Natasha Weeks and her husband Ryan, and they have a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
The 2-year-old told them in the womb, I'm coming in. I'm not going to go to school. We're not going to have a conventional life. And this kid's actually, I met him today, making the decisions every day where they go, and keeping them in a play frequency. Like when that starts to happen, that individualization or self-importance or whatever that we came from or we're coming out of starts to come in, the kid telepathically says, hey, let's go to the playground, or, you know, you need to chill out, you know. But I see that. And I think part of it I don't know how it's gone for you, but, and I have seen plenty of examples like this. Even yesterday, we had a little gathering and it was amazing. People, quiet people who had been in the background, mostly women, stepping up and telling their stories. And oh my God, you could see the Phoenix energy rising out of them. But, but you know, it's, I don't know how it's gone for you, but it's just, I think a big part of it's been getting used to this new frequency. You know what I mean? Like getting used to the magic, like getting used to this actually is happening. Right?
If you work with it the correct way, it is magic, Todd. Basically, the way that I kind of analysed it last year when it first came in was it was a fresh template of energy that you couldn't create backwards with, if you understand what I mean. This energy, new energy that we have around us, is of such a high frequency and such a high consistency that it no longer supports our old patterning. Which is why everybody's patterning has been coming to the surface, with such regularity. And it's also the whole focus or purpose of this energy is to make it virtually impossible for the old patterns that did exist on this planet to be sustainable. So it's slowly but surely it's shutting the doors on the old the old way of the matrix. And from what I can see, 2020 is like dealing with the collective panic about it, because I mean, I'm not going to throw any like kind of negative keywords into it, but the powers that have enjoyed their time running this planet for the last 10,000 years have suddenly realized that they're not doing it anymore. And they're throwing everything that they possibly can into the apple cart to try and get it to turn over. And it's not working. No. But it's making people like you and I very busy, because we've got to steer it in a positive direction while all of this is going on. So it's a kind of a case of like, it's chaos management a little bit, isn't it? It's an interesting process. It really is.
Well, it's interesting too, because I like what you said about what we received. It's like in the now, like the let's say the mathematic equations that worked before this day that we received it, or this period, they don't work anymore. It doesn't matter what you've done and who you were and what you know. It's like there's like this, it's a, you know, the spontaneous, intuitive, eternal moment that's only right now. And there's all, like, I've been getting tingled since we started talking about this. I know we're on the right track. And it's like in this moment, we don't even understand yet how much code we can emit between each other or from ourselves, or where two or more gather, whatever you want to call it, because it's this new frequency that, like, how do you make, you know, how do you make sculptures with this? You know, how do you work with this? It's a different it's a different math. It's weird.
It is. It is. I think we've got a lot better a grip on it than a lot of us believe that we have. I think there's a lot of because of the way that we've been patterned for so long, we're kind of like many souls on the spiritual pathway are under the assumption that they still need like incredible amounts of guidance. They still need kind of like somebody to step up and point them in the right direction. But what I'm noticing is a lot of masters about who are being put, like you say, the ladies that are standing up and they're speaking, the phoenixes, the lionesses, and it's there are a lot of paths being forced by the constructions that are going on around us at the moment, and it's producing masters everywhere. It's just like, wow, there's all of these really powerful high frequency souls like standing up in their power, doing what they've incarnated here to do. And half of the time they don't even realize what they actually are yet. You know, they're just manifesting this energy, manifesting this new power, and it's happening because of the rising frequency. It's almost I think I described it in I was trying to find words to describe it in a German word. I was in Munich 2-3 weeks ago presenting, and I was trying to find words to describe what I was talking about, and it kind of came out as like that term boiling the frog, where the frequency rises on a day-to-day basis, and most people don't know that it's occurring, and they're changing whilst the frequency is occurring, but they don't notice that they're changing. They're just doing it. But if we're looking at it from a spiritual viewpoint, it's like that's happening. Everybody's shifting, and it's happening pretty quickly.
It's happening very quickly, and it's getting faster, and there's multiple streams more than ever. Like there's multiple transformational things changing in a person, and therefore, you know, with what's going on outside of us too. But it's now quite a few people, including, you know, Morgan and I, have had experiences with the dragon energy. Now, we had it most of last year and even a little bit of the year before, but it really like ramped up like in January.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of different types of intel explanations that came from different people. But it seems to me like it was very much a creator type of consciousness or energy or frequency. And also a very much, you know, taking our power, fully stepping into our power with no bullshit. And it's time to roll, you know. This is what, like you said earlier, this is what we did all this work for. So let's do it. What more do you need?
Yeah.
Does that resonate? Does that resonate with you?
Completely, Todd. Yeah. I mean, I've worked with the dragons for years, but I've also I've got very close to the unicorns over the last 2 years or so, and they have a habit of rolling up in January, and when they do it, it's kind of that they are introducing their. I don't see unicorns as the traditional, like the pure white horses. I see them as like points of light which are so bright that they'd burn your retinas out if you actually saw them with the naked eye. They are incredibly powerful.
Wow.
But they always seem to roll up in January as if they're heralding the arrival of a new higher frequency. And every time they do, I lose about 3 nights sleep. They turn up and they anchor into one of my crystals, and all of a sudden it's like someone's plugged me into the mains. And it's all fun and jolly for the first night. By the second night, I'm starting to get a bit cranky because I need my sleep. And by the third night, it's like, right, okay, you know, guys, can you ease it back a little bit? So that totally ties in with what you felt. There's been just a huge inflow of new energy, new frequencies, new stuff to be with. But at the same time, it's difficult to juggle all the balls because we've got our own processes to deal with, and like, you know, we haven't exceeded completely the benchmark of polarity yet. We've still got our earthly things to deal with, as well as this colossal planetary process to deal with. It's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, that's true. You know, so many people that I've come across have been in an energy practitionership, you know, they've been a healer. And now more than ever, it's like, regardless of what they're doing for other people, there's even a more, you know, compounded process of dealing with the stuff that we all have to deal with. In other words, it's no one's left out. Everybody's having to do it. And it's kind of, to me, like reshaping, like you were saying earlier. I mean, there's so many of them. Are we to heal each other, or are we all to go into full self-empowerment, or are we to apply the processes and the modalities to the vast majority, which would make sense to me, you know, because a lot of people have said there's a point where we're going to be put to work. And I think that point is now. That's what you're saying. You know, so there's these 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different things playing out, but at the core of it is the inner work. It continues with higher clarity and more awareness, so you can discover more stuff, you know.
I think it's the way it seems to me is, I mean, everything's functioning on a time frame. This is what I've always been working with. It's been functioning on a time frame where we've got a limited amount of time to process from 3D to 5D, which is, you know, we're doing it in record time. I mean, if you read what Diana Cooper wrote years ago in her book, you know, the target of the shift is 2032. So by 2032, the whole of the planet has predominantly moved into a 5D matrix. The matrix of energy has shifted, and all of the old blueprints have kind of like been fizzled out or have been
run their course.
and humanity's consciousness no longer functions at that lower frequency, the frequency of polarity. Now, this brings in, this is the thing that I've been studying in my spare time. I've kind of been thinking about it a lot, is about what does this actually mean on it means that humanity is going to identify with their heart centers rather than their ego. That changes everything. It changes absolutely everything that we're going to be living in, that we're going to function in as a society, how we're going to engage with each other, how we engage with the animals, the trees, the plants, the living planet of ourselves. But it also really affects, this is the interesting part about it, is like how it affects us on a free will basis. Now, this is something which I've been finding really, really interesting recently. Earth has been how it is because it's been a planet of free will, okay? And free will it's served as this amazing learning platform for everybody for the last 10, 20,000 years, however long we've been in that kind of, that energy bandwidth. In order for us to move into a fifth dimensional frequency, our concept of free will is going to change. And it's going to change because we won't be serving self as much. We'll be serving as a we rather than an I. And it can cause quite a lot of triggers if you present that information. It's like, no, I don't want to give up my free will in you. But the funny thing is, by agreeing to go into this fifth dimensional frequency, moving into a planet of higher consciousness, is automatically kind of agreed with that. And free will no longer be as big an aspect of your life as it was previously. I found it really interesting to kind of think about how we will function in the future, and I'm seeing so many signs of it already amongst us as groups of awakened souls, and how we function and operate with the old ways of society. And they're so, Mars and Venus now. It's, you've heard the old saying, once you've woken up, there's no going back to sleep again. Like, the thought is completely, you can't do it, can you? If you see where I'm going with it, it's consciousness has shifted so much. And I just think we're waiting for the catch-up moment, but the catch-up process is going to be quite, not messy, but it's going to call it, this is why we need the boots on the ground like we are at the moment. The light workers, the spiritual souls, really are having to step into their power and do their jobs now. It's going to be a busy year.
I got like 3 or 4 quick comments on that. One of them is, you're absolutely right. It would only make sense that those that come after us, let's just put it that way, the majority, it's going to go through the same ebb and flow that we have. You get a download, and you fry your brain for 2 or 3 or 4 days, you assimilate it, and you move on. You get another one, and it speeds up, and so the stability of this grid that we've created, that's in place and lit up now, is going to be very important. The other thing I'd point out too, and I think for me, as time's gone on, I see more and more people that are they're forecasting, their intel is integrating, or at least from a human understanding, it correlates. So like Franco's coming on after this show, and he's talked about all last year about a 10-year period, which falls in line with what you said about 2032. And then the other thing that he says in a different way, but the same thing you're saying, is in regard to these old frequencies and patterns of behaviors or programs, or whatever you want to call them, playing out, and how they're just basically kind of going to fall on deaf ears. And if you look at the recent weeks, especially this year, I noticed that in my own experience, and I also notice it in the community and in my work, and that is, we've got to a point now where even if you want to go play in that frequency, that it's not even there. You can't even do it. So when you talk about this free will evolution, I totally get it, because it would be a space to me where there's no thought.
Yeah.
Everyone, it's like almost like a collective free will or a collective surrender. Like we all just flow together, and so there, it's almost like no thought. It's I can see that though. I can see that. We had a dolphin encounter the other day, and I spent a lot of time thinking about it.
Yeah.
And the pod of the dolphins, how they all just, how I asked them a question and one jumps out and then two jump out, and just the whole symphony, you know what I mean? The synchronotic part of it. Yeah, so I can see that's how it be. And like you said, I think that's happening for us, and it's more and more visible every day, even in our circles.
Yeah. It's gonna be, I mean, I'm finding it difficult almost to imagine where we're going to be by the summer solstice. Things are moving so quickly. I mean, there are things out there that are going on at the moment that need our attention. One of the things that I've been saying to people a lot when I'm on my Facebook page and when I'm doing Zooms is stay away from the standard media productions, the things that are kind of put out through the television, the things that kind of drop your vibration when you're scrolling through Facebook. I mean, majority, I would say probably all of us have got a Facebook account, okay, unless we've moved to other platforms that aren't quite so heavily monitored and everything like that. And say 99% of your friends list will be spiritual, but there'll always be one or two in there that are kind of like from your family who may not have stepped up to the same frequency, and they're posting the stuff that's frightening them every day and making themselves angry and things like that. So I'm sort of saying be aware of what's going on around us at the moment, because it's things that we've got to kind of work with to energy manage, the energy management side of it. But also don't get tuned into this field, this fear field that is very, very prominent. That's the only thing that I'm really keeping my eye on at the moment, Todd. It is the level of kind of discord which is available out there, because it's very easy to get sucked into it for the cause, if you see what I mean.
Absolutely.
And then it's a very, very fine balance to stay as an observer who's assisting, rather than somebody who's kind of in the thick of the battle, kind of really being. There's a lot of energy to be wasted, and there's a lot, you get stuck in. You go in there into the middle of it, and you come out and you spend the next 2 days alchemizing yourself because you've taken on so much of it. There's ways and means of being invited. This is where I see a lot of us heading throughout this year at the moment, is kind of assisting, but from the 5D perspective that you've been talking about, the love-based perspective, and helping. I mean, we're the triggers, we're the catalysts now at the end of the day. Like we're the frequency that we carry is the frequency that triggers those of us those around us.
Absolutely.
Who quite risen to our frequency, they're still playing catch up. What I see the most is there's going to be a lot of catching up this year. There's going to be a lot of people who are totally unaware of what's going on out there, and all of a sudden they're going to be made very, very aware very quickly. So it's going to be quite chaotic. It's going to be chaotic in the media. It's going to be chaotic energy wise, and it's very, very important for us to stay very grounded, very focused, very boots on the ground about the whole situation.
Yeah, and I think it's for lack of a better way, what's coming, you might call it disclosure. But is the impact of it is a lot more than we have thought it would be, because we think in terms of, the truth's coming out. But you're right. The flip side of it is, okay, so these things that we've got to be careful to expose ourselves to, even in the news feed and so on, like you're talking about. It's not the literal, so to speak, from the human level. That's not even the threat. The threat is the programming that it's putting out, and it can even be inputted into ourselves very easy. Like you said, you have to alchemize for a couple days. So and I can see where. I went to this thing yesterday. I'll explain it this way. I went to this gathering we put on with the Lamplight group, and about 30 people showed up. And it was extraordinary, because I've done a few of these gatherings, and there was no wounded masculine energy. There were more men percentage wise. It was almost 50-50. I think it may have been 50-50.
Nice.
There was almost as many men as women. There was no wounded masculine frequency. The feminine frequency was very apparent. It was apparent in the men, the softness, but strength of the men, the community. I mean, it was like everything we needed came, and all these people just like, you know, here's some microphone wires I happen to have in my car. You know, I mean, it was just crazy. But what I was getting at is, it was amazing because it was almost like a microscopic screenshot of what the movie is actually. And the people, though many of the women telling their stories in power and liberation, you could tell they weren't tied to it. But the thing I'm getting at is there was a star seed mentality. Nobody said, hey, I'm a star seed. You know, somebody might have said, hey, I'm from Andromeda, but there wasn't a lot of that talk. It was more like it was an air. They were star seeds. And I can see where when this happens, when the shoe drops or whatever, or gets, you know, more truth comes out, I can see where the like you were talking about experience, the being and owning and just being from a starseed mentality and no longer human would be so much more advantageous, because if we got much human aspect left dictating us, when things get more revealed, it's going to be more conflict inside. It's going to be more, you know, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's the human side of it's going to be evident, but it's going to be what we're, you know. I think the majority of people on our pathway now are aware of the fact of what the Earth was a school. I say was a school because I kind of like consider it schools out and changes upon us, if you see what I mean. It's that's how I've viewed the Earth experience up to a certain point, up to 8 years ago, is the fact that it was a learning plane. It was a school, and we learned what we needed to learn from the third dimension, and now it's time for it all to end. So it's almost like what you're saying. It's like describing a screenshot of the empowerment of the light workers as we are going to be as a unit through future. I think that sounds fantastic.
It does. You know, Franco talks about, because he's got recall from several lifetimes on other planets. He's got some special, unique intel. But he says every planet is a university and a playground. And what's been coming to me is, I'm with you, like, you know, the lessons are over. Now it's where we go apply it, and this is the playground opening up. You know,
it's going to be a completely different learning experience down here. It's going to be a learning experience. The way I see it, it's going to be, we're going as a planet, as a unit, we've agreed to experience as much of physical life as possible in a 5D frequency. But the unique part about it is the majority of planets that other people have experienced, they've come from. Earth is unique because it's worked with ego. This is what's making our process so different from many others that have experienced, is the fact that ego has been so predominantly powerful on planet Earth. It's been such a difficult one to work with, and we've found it so immersive. And there's so much to unravel from that entire experience. It's an intriguing place. Isn't it?
We all had our own personal demon. You know, whatever you want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that do you see? I mean, I know none of us really know, but that collectively at some point we'll actually defy death in you know, instant healing and regeneration and just, you know, these 1,000-year lives and whatever. The magic, the alchemy, the you know, the other kingdoms coming in to the visual spectrum, or maybe our visual spectrum expands. Do you think that's something like that? We have the potential to make that happen?
I've got a very, I mean, for the intel, the personal information that I've received is that's exactly where we're going, Todd, because what we're doing is what I work with is the fact that the planet is being rolled out with an Atlantean ascension blueprint at the moment. Now, the blueprint that we're walking into was set during the golden era of Atlantis, which lasted for 1,500 years. Now, during that 1,500 years, the Atlanteans created the most incredible technological marvels, what we describe as science fiction now. But kind of the pinnacle of their achievements was their healing abilities, their work with crystals, their work with regeneration chambers, the fact that they could power their entire continent and their cities using crystals for light, for heat, for computers, for just about everything. Now, we have just scratched the surface of that information that we're going to be retrieving. Now, I've worked kind of directly in workshops with the Temple of Healing and the Temple of Sound. Now, have you seen the film Elysium with Matt Damon in it?
No.
If you haven't watched it,
wait a minute. I think I have seen that movie.
But you've got that typical scorched earth scenario where Earth's all overcrowded and it's covered with like impoverished, ill people. It's very, very typical Hollywood. But you've got like this radiant kind of space station in the sky called Elysium, which is where all the rich people go. Now, Elysium has got a healing technology on it, which if you lay in this healing machine, it regenerates and realigns your DNA and your energy bodies within 30 seconds. So you could go in their terminal and after 30 seconds, you exit completely realigned and fully healed. Yeah. And it completely resonates with the picture that I received from the Temple of Healing in Atlantean times. They got it to a point where the physical body, the mental body, the emotional body, the spiritual body would be realigned almost instantaneously. And when we've dealt with the things that we need to deal with on this planet, when we've kind of stepped up through the vibrations to the point where ego is no longer going to kind of like take that technology and misuse it,
right?
Then we're going to kind of basically be living almost by that blueprint. That's how I'm seeing things. That's the time I'm working with.
Well, there's no coincidences. So last night I had 3 or 4 streams that I was working on, but some of them were pre-existing, like some sacral transformation and just different things. But this came in last night. I just remembered, and it was about Atlantis.
Yeah.
And it was like I was being told, you need to look into the technological accomplishments or capabilities of Atlantis. So I woke up at some point and I had it in my head. I thought, well, I'm going to forget. So I went to YouTube and I quickly did a search and I saved like 4 videos.
Yeah.
One of them was Plato, and I watched about 5 minutes of it. And he actually wrote about not just Atlantis, but the technological incredible technology that they had in comparison to the rest of the world. It was like night and day. Yeah. And then there was 2 or 3 other ones. So that resonates. A lot of times when you think of technology, and that's where I was going with it, I was thinking like super spacecrafts and teleporting or whatever. But the crystals make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
they make a lot of sense to me. And then the healing chambers make a lot of sense. If you think about the Egyptian, the frequency of the Egyptian memories as well as Atlantis. Yeah, so that resonates a lot. Have you gotten anything else recently that was anything that you might think significant that you're picking up on?
I mean, working with that particular Atlantean blueprint, I mean, it's we've moved into an era called the era of the navel chakra at the moment. This is how I've personally identified the work that I put out there. The era of the heart was the collective heart chakra of humanity opening, which I was told happened quite suddenly on the Lionsgate of 2017. I was given the information in the gut. I mean, I tend to have a bit of a rocky ride on Lionsgates because I'm a Leo with 4 of my main planets in Leo, and I used to think, oh, it's the Lionsgate, it's going to be great fun. But in actual fact, it's the point of the year where I get the most fried and deluged with like galactic core energies and everything. And in 2017, I was sat in the garden, and the Lionsgate had just closed. I was kind of wobbling around with my mobile phone, like, you know, I better record a YouTube video and actually kind of like, you know, and I was asking Archangel Metatron, what was that? You know, like, what was that all about? And you're going to kind of enlighten me as to what, because the energy was so intense. And he said to me that the collective, he just quite bluntly, as angels tend to do, he said, well, yeah, the collective heart center of the whole of humanity open. I was like, you what? I was like, kind of like, run that by me again. Like and he said, yeah, the frequency on this planet has now risen to the point where the collective heart chakra, every soul on this planet, is opened at a 5D frequency.
Wow.
And I was like, well, how come everybody's in chaos and fighting each other? And he said, because when the heart center opens at that level, the ego will defend itself. So everybody around you is now going to go through an extensive period of the dark night of the soul. And things are going to get chaotic, which is kind of where we are at the moment. Okay, this is why everything has been pushed so hard with people, you know, family, friends, co-workers, civilization as a general. It's reaching boiling point. Yeah. But as this is also happening, something else is triggered, called the Atlantean Ascension Blueprint is being kind of almost masterminded by the appearance of the navel chakra. It was like, you know, when we got our 12 chakras back at this is the information that I work with. The one physical chakra that reappeared within the body was the navel chakra. It appeared between the solar plexus and the sacral. The navel is the Atlantean chakra of community. Okay, now contained within that chakra is the blueprint for the future. And what I've heard is that at the moment, with the work that we're doing and the frequency that's rising, this is triggering collectively around the world as well. And what it's doing is it's pushing everybody together in a community-minded state. I mean, it's not going to happen, you know, to begin with, it's going to be chaotic because people have got to kind of rise up and change what's out of alignment. Earth is not a community at the moment. It's everybody's kind of pitted one against the other. There's division. And as this blue rolls out, it's going to become overwhelmingly powerful, and it's going to literally change the kind of the interface of everything going on around us and bring us all together. So there's these incredibly powerful energies at work that are kind of steering, guiding what we're going through. Yeah. And it's like we're dotting the I's and crossing the T's as we go along. And so for me, the Atlantean thing is massive. It always has been. But I'm also trying to keep it quite practical, because the minute you mention Atlantis in a workshop or in a physical meeting, people are immediately taken back to a period of time where there's no records for, apart from what's been downloaded through people. But it's an actual fact. For me, it's a very, very practical thing, because it's how we're going to be building the next phase of our journey. Yeah. And because the blueprints are already there, the blueprints for the healing, for the technology, they're available, but they're available at a higher frequency. Once we've risen to that frequency, it becomes an iCloud that we can access.
That's right.
Very quickly. You know, it's all everything everything the Atlanteans hid was hidden at a frequency so they could access it when the consciousness level was high enough. Yeah. It's a funny old process.
It's brilliant. It's actually brilliant. We are booked through the end of March. I'm the one that did the scheduling because Morgan went out of town for a few days, and I jammed everybody up because I'd love to get together with you again and maybe 3 or 4 weeks and open up a little bit more time.
Yeah.
But before we head out, I want to make sure that everybody that doesn't know you or that's just finding out about you on this show or on the replay knows how to find you, knows what you're doing, you know, that type of thing. So can you just kind of fill in the details for that?
I can, yeah. If anybody wants to kind of follow what I'm doing, I spend a lot of time on my Tim Wild Practical Ascension Facebook page, and it's Tim Wild, WHILD. There's no E on the end because Google won't like that. And it's and also timwild.com. That's my website. I do tend to, I've kind of streamlined my social media, so it's either my Facebook page, Tim Wild Practical Ascension, or www.timwild.com, and everything that I'm doing and everything that I'm focusing on or producing as I go along is available on there.
Right on.
Yeah, I've done regular Zoom events as well. I like my online workshops at the moment. They're
I mean, well, I've had a lot of people tell me over the years, you know, that they've participated, and I've always heard very great things. But yeah, I'd love to. I'll reach. Well, when Morgan gets back this week, we'll reach out to you. And figure something out.
Where are you at the moment? Or where in
well, now we're in Florida. So
nice. Is it sunny?
Yes, it's sunny, and that magic, you know, that stuff that's happening to everybody. Long story short, we didn't, you know, we've been traveling around in an RV.
Yeah.
And that gets a little rough. And so, you know, Morgan said, this is what I need. And I was talking to to the universe myself for a previous couple of days to it. And anyway, we got a place to plug in the RV and broadcast for the next 7 weeks. So,
wow.
You know, that's so it's still the RV, but you know, I mean, it's cool, you know. Anyway, so we're in Florida now. We'll be here till March 31st. We're probably going to head back west and keep meeting up with people, and just follow the guidance, you know. So it's
it sounds wonderful, Todd.
It's really cool. And then my daughter lives about 10 miles from here. One of my 6 kids, and she just had my first grandkid.
Wow.
3 months ago. My other daughter flew in last night, so I'm gonna get to go visit with them tonight. And, this is what happens, I guess. You know, that's getting used to joy and bliss and happiness, and no drama is I can do that. I can get used to that. If I've got to surrender a few things and give up some distractions or whatever the case is, I can do that. But it's a pleasure talking to you, and I really appreciate it. I have a lot of respect for you.
It really has. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
No doubt. We're going to be back in 5 minutes with Franco de Nicola. All blessings to you, Tim, you and your family. You take care.
And you, my friend. Lots of love. See you soon.
Okay.